Nicholas Jan Jones, the technical support, handle it if it persists. But yeah, hello, thank you for joining us. My name is Christian. I'm the program manager at PRAKSIS. This is the fourth and final event in our series of P.A.F form lectures, which have taken place throughout October. And I think everyone here is familiar with PRAKSIS, but very quickly, I can say that PRAKSIS is a center for culture, research, and learning. We're based in Oslo, Norway, and one of the main things we do is conduct residencies that bring groups of people together around important topics, so topics that we find important for the times, and simply things we're interested in. So earlier this year, we worked with Shannon Ray Stratton and Kelly Lloyd to convene a one-month program called P.A.F Forum, which looked at social gathering as creative practice. And through an open call, Kelly and Shannon were joined by 8 artists from around the world who've helped put together this series of events. So I'll quickly give credit to them. It's Fergus Tibbs, artist, DJ, and cultural producer from Scotland, now living in Bergen. Hi, Fergus. Banu Çiçektulu, who's a sound artist, music producer, DJ, and researcher from Turkey, living in Berlin, but in Ankara right now, so I'm not sure she will be able to join. Tor Lukasik Foss, artist, songwriter, and storyteller, living in Hamilton, Ontario, in Canada. Matilda Morse, who's a London-based artist and educator. Sarah Klugridge, who's an artist, writer, and editor, living in the US. Åste Amundsen, artist, researcher, working out of Germany. And Lexi Owen, who's an Oslo-based interdisciplinary artist from Canada. Tonight's speaker, Tope Ajayi, was also a resident of P.A.F Forum, joining from his home in Nigeria. And he's a Nigerian multidisciplinary artist and curator. They've made this program possible, so thank you all. Then finally, I want to say thank you to Curator, Public Art Norway, for supporting the project. You can find more out about it and its contributors on our website, which is praksisoslo.org. And then for Zoom practicalities, please keep your cameras on. It's nice to be able to see you, and keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking. Please raise your hand if you have a question at the Q&A. But as I said to begin with, you're also welcome to type questions in the chat during the talk, and then we'll try to catch up at the end of the session. But now I will hand over the word to Kelly Lloyd, who will introduce tonight's speaker, Tope Ajayi. Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. Hey, yeah, thanks everyone for being here. It's so wonderful to see some of your faces. Well, it's not wonderful to see all of your faces, some of whom I know, some of whom I don't know. I'll just read Tope's bio and then I'll say a couple of nice things. So Tope Ajayi is a multidisciplinary artist and cultural curator born in Ibadan, Nigeria. He was raised in a household teeming with members from Generations X and the millennial era. Growing up amidst their cultural nuances, even though he is from Generation Z, provided him a unique blend of influences that shaped his artistic inclination. This backdrop, complemented by his pianist DJ uncle, a broadcaster aunt, an art-loving granddad, and a high school teaching mom, laid the foundation for his creative journey. Tope is the chief curator of the Incubator Collective, and this workshop, entitled The Culture is Form, grew out of the Incubator Collective's 2023 project, Partying as an Artistic Medium, which explored turning intangible cultural forms into tangible expression. Yeah, I was one of the lead residents for this residency, and even though Tope wasn't able to join us, I really appreciated how present he was on the digital media, also a part of our conversations, and that was just something I really, you know, I really feel like you brought both your ideas to the residency and also your your passion for these kinds of conversations. And just to reiterate something that Christian touched on, Tope and also Lexi Owen, who's joined us, they both raised the funds from Coro to be able to make this entire lecture series possible. So thank you so much for that. And Tope, I really look forward to this workshop.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Thank you very much, Christian. So good to be back here again. So good to see everybody's faces. From Christian to Kelly, Fergus, Thor, I haven't seen you in a minute. Sarah, good to see you again. Shannon, I have not seen you in a minute too. Lexi, good to see you. Nicholas, Benu, everybody in there, hello for the workshop. My name is Tope Ajayi, and I'm an artist from Ibadan, Nigeria. And I'd like to say big thanks to PRAKSIS for making this possible. And, big thanks again to P.A.F, in cooperation with Kelly and Shannon, who has given me the opportunity. I mean, I remember the night I got the email that I got be part of this program. I was just, oh my God, So yeah, I mean, and then the residency was actually also fun for me. It was a lot of learning process in there. Even as much as I couldn't make it physically, the energies were really, really contagious, and I learned quite a lot from everybody, who contributed to making this a successful effort. Just like Kelly said, the entire workshop we're doing today was born out of series of experiments that my collective and I were carrying out. And all of this led even to me applying for P.A.F for residency in the first place. These are just ongoing thoughts. They're not really formulated thoughts, but it's just the things we're thinking through as we make work. Just really hope it can actually, influence, a larger audience, and maybe people could borrow, people could also like contribute into it, that cycle, back and forth, and maybe we can arrive at something that is really, really beautiful. So tonight I will be sharing you my screen, and then we can kickstart and anything. So good to see Matilda. Matilda, hi. So give me a minute. Let me just share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen. Just let me know if you have any technical glitch whatsoever. But yeah, so culture is fun. Technically, volume 1, Incubator Collective. And I'd like to start out by saying some introductions as to why we're doing this in the first place. So first of all, I'd like to think that everybody's going to be part of something interactive and fun today. And everything started from, this is the incubator, which was a way for my collective, the Incubator Collective, and I to experiment with blending community and art, and what we've come to learn through that experience. So over time, we've come to see how that might just affect culture, and that's what today's session is all about generally. So what we're going to be doing today is just me walking you through the key things we've learned so far from our practice and a framework, which we call culture as form, that we're developing, as this is not fully yet developed, because we're thinking through these things, just like I said earlier. And as I meet with different audiences, starting with this one and with you today, and seeing what we make out of that experience. So the goal is I iterated into 3 things. So that I walk you through our story and our practice as a collective, and we see how these concepts and ideas manifest through it, and then finally maybe we can think through it together and just apply it to many other things. I think that would manifest with a final challenge prompt at the end of the session, where we can also get to break into groups and have discussions about it, and then each group can circle back with a representative that shares what the group has discussed in thinking about how they want to apply it. So in as much as you've probably seen on promotional materials for this workshop, you've seen cultures form, rethinking social gatherings and artistic medium. I want to make things a little bit simpler today. So we'll be looking at it like this, as in the form of a question. How can we archive parties and produce knowledge from them, type of knowledge that is regenerative and adaptable? So that's that's what we're gonna start from. And instead of like answering that, I get to review more about our practice, my collective, what we do, what we are, what we've done. And just like I said, this is the incubator where everything started from. So before we do that, I want to believe that to some level, we're all familiar with parties and partying, and we've had our varied shared expressions of it. So personally for me, I haven't been to many parties myself, but I love it. I love immersive experiences. They challenge me to step out of myself. So finding the art of partying for me was rather very interesting. But in terms of background, I come from a tribe in Nigeria called the Yoruba tribe, and this tribe likes to party a lot, like a lot, and it goes all out with all their parties. But parties vary in different contexts and different function in different parts of the world. But have you ever thought about what happens after the party? Beyond the highs, beyond the hangovers, beyond the memories, and all the things in between them. So it's either the experience or the physicality. And when we talk about the physicality, we might say the materials that live with us after a party. That reminds us again of the lived experience, that we had. Somehow that can also show up in our shared experience, this particular context. And before going deep, it'll be fun to actually hear from all of us, everybody, everybody here about our different party experiences. So like, we said while talking about, while sharing like this workshop, how to so many people, we asked that you come with a party souvenir or a party ephemera. So I'm not sure if everybody came with that. I came with mine, and I'm gonna have to fetch that in my bag. Anyway, I came with mine. Oh, see, yeah, okay, cool. So that's it. So I'm gonna show you that, and but then I want to give the mic just for a few minutes, maybe like 2, 3, 4 minutes there, and just hear from everybody who brought the party souvenir. And then I'll share mine last. So you can talk about where you picked it from, and what it just means in brief context to whatever party experience you've attended. So yeah, we're gonna open up the floor. Whoever wants to go first, and yeah.
I can go first. Is that okay, or did somebody have their hands up? Somebody have their hands up. No, I'm not seeing any hands. I'll go first. Tope, do you want me to just like tell you about it and then where it came from, you said?
Yeah. You could just talk about it briefly and where it came from.
Okay.
Just
so my party souvenir is, I don't know if you can see this, it's like a bottle top. It's like
okay.
no bottle top I've ever opened a bottle from. And so this this was from, I was living in India in like 2009 to 2011, and I was living in southern India, but then I went to northern India to go hang out with my friend, and that was also where I could drink. I couldn't really drink in public, and so but I could like drink at my friend's house, and or like at my own house, and we would always drink this rum. But one time we couldn't find this rum, and so we bought this bottle of wine, and it had this top, and it's not a like corkscrew, it's not a twist off top. It's like the only way we could get this top off was to literally just like get a pair of pliers and like a hammer and just like claw this thing off this bottle of wine. And then of course we were like, should we be drinking this? This may be like a front for toxic waste or something like that. Like, why was it sealed so hard? And so yeah, now I still have it, I guess, like many years later.
And this is like 2011, you said, and that's like almost a decade keeping that. Wow, that's crazy. Who wants to go next? Who would like to go next?
I can go if you want. I have a few different things. I think the thing I spoke to you about before was this ashtray, which maybe I'll just show this one. So this is an ashtray, which is like a sort of bum. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of like the bottom half of a person, and it's not so much it more became a piece of party ephemera because we used it at a lot of parties, smoking in the kitchen or whatever. But the way we acquired it was we used to DJ. Me and my partner used to DJ in this pub, and they had this ashtray in the pub, but we really liked it. So what we did is we hid it in the pub and waited for a couple of months to see if they would notice. So we went a few times and they didn't seem to notice. So the ashtray made its way into our bag eventually, and I think we got better use out of it because obviously they didn't seem to realize. So then it became an important like party staple. Is this ashtray would always be in the middle of one of the tables. So that was a good one.
Tor, I
That's
feel
pretty
like you
cool.
had your hand up.
Yeah, I saw Tor earlier.
Yeah, I want to explain why I don't have any party souvenirs at all, and it's because I take a souvenir almost from every party that I remember or any party that seems significant. I have this in the party. I have an urge to grab something or hold something, and then that souvenir has a life in my home of about maybe a maximum of 5 years, and then if I encounter it again, I'm filled with this like deep, hard desire to just get rid of it and flush it away. It's almost like this souvenir causes me a tiny bit of pain because I'm so far removed from the event that it's happened. In the midst of the event, the idea of having a souvenir seems so potent, and then as the memory of the party cools, then it almost becomes a tiny bit like a bad it contains an energy that I can't work with. It's like it's holding something, or I need to be free of it. It's a very strong desire to be free of the souvenir. So that's my that's my statement.
I think Sarah's answers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Tor, I am not a person. I don't keep souvenirs really. I live in a small New York apartment. There can't tolerate a lot of clutter. But I do like menus. So when I work a lot with food, and menus are kind of like historically the only remnants of these parties, which and I think that when I'm at a dinner, the menu seems super important. And then if I take it home, even like a week later, it doesn't mean a lot to me. It becomes like so disassociated from that experience that it doesn't seem to capture it anymore. And I'm like, why do I have this? But I went to a restaurant this summer with some friends, and it was a really special experience. And one of those friends saved the menu and cut it up and wrote a poem and sent it back to me with with like cutouts from the menu, and it has a squid. I'm really obsessed with giant squids. But I love this because I think it's actually a memory. It's her memory of this party, which makes it feel different to me. Like it doesn't have to match up with my experience of what happened. It's about the party from her perspective, and it made me think that this should be something I do more often.
That's cool. That's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, two different approach. Kelly and Fergus sharing about things they've collected, and we see Tor and Sarah with a different approach to party ephemeras. That's cool actually. That's really cool. Thank you guys for sharing. I think I'm gonna share mine. Cool. That was it. Yep, found it. So this is what it looks like. I hope everybody can see that. Currently, so this is like it was sort of like it was a pamphlet. It's a limited edition pamphlet we gave out for our event, the Incubator event, and it kind of like allowed people to follow the programming during the event more intentionally. So making people really active at the party, but also to sort of like give the party an afterlife, and allow people to kind of like just poke into like all the things that they didn't notice, while they came, for the party, and and I would just ties to like whatever is going on in the city. So that's basically what this is about, and I'm going to talk more about it like as we go on technically. So yeah, I guess I get to move to the next part of everything. So yeah, this is where things get a little bit more fun. We talk about like the practice. So yeah, I will be discussing my collective journey, which is the Incubator. The Incubator is a collective that was born out of a collective response. It's an artist maker collective filled with different multidisciplinary artists like me as well. And when everybody comes on board, they become curators technically. So everybody just gets to curate based off, whatever informs their artistic practice. And then so we have like software engineers, visual artists, filmmakers, architects, and everything in between, mix like that, mix and match. We started out just saying, okay, we're an attempt to arrive a community, because we felt that in our local city we just never really had the opportunity to kind of like interact and foster creative engagement. And then it just sort of like just moved on from there, because like we also saw a need to like create opportunities for ourselves, create creative opportunities for ourselves. And that's the why. That's the why. That's why. And that's so what we do is we create culture across multi formats. And what we mean by that is, it manifests in different ways across like art, experiences, gatherings, new tech, research, academia, and many other things in between. And more recently, we're looking into the idea of campusing. And we've had beautiful projects. A few that I will mention is, of course, this is the Incubator, which is a party that we did. We've also had like open lab sessions. They're more like an exhibition where people come in to see the work we're making before it's done. We've had a residency as well, and many other things, and then a couple of music projects in the works that we've not released, and so many other things. A first issue of our magazine and other things in between. This started in Ibadan, Nigeria, and we have team members now across like Abuja, Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, and the UK. Yeah, we recently evolved into an institution without walls, and what we mean by that is basically, yes, it's a couple of us. I mean, we don't have so many pictures because like everybody, it's not in the city all at once. So when we come together, often we gather to take pictures as much as possible. And we recently evolved into an institution without walls, and what we just mean by that is we realize like the importance of like institutions in driving culture forward, and we also realize the current positioning of some institutions of the world not really really like not really like fulfilling what it really means to be in the position that they are. So we realize that we just need to rethink the idea of what institutions can be. I mean, with beyond like the traditional framework of what we traditional notions of what we know it to be. So we rather just said, okay, we could be an institution without walls, where we sort of like co-create with the public in such a way that we use the same models of what institutions are generally, but in a non-obvious way. The people, it's there, it's all over your face, but in a non-obvious way. And that is now fostering how we make work. So there's just a few pictures and all that from stuff we've done. And then yeah, so talk about the party itself. So last year, in 2023, we clocked 1 year, and we decided to like open up the community to like a much expansive audience, and we decided to commission that with a party. And instead of like say, okay, this is going to be a party, remember I said like we're thinking beyond the traditional notions of traditional framework of how things are generally. So we decided to have party as an artistic medium instead of saying, oh, this is a party. Because people just kept asking, why did you guys call it, partying as an artistic medium? And we're like, okay, no. Against the notion of, I just want to come party, have a good time. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have a good time, but this is rather like a social experiment where we want you to be active participant in the creation of whatever is going on. So we're partying where this is the incubator, partying as an artistic medium. And happened September 29, 2023. And we just invited local artists in the city to come have fun. They brought their unreleased music, and there was like DJ performances and stuff. And people just really had a good time, artistic installations here and there. And the process, what this is rather, through this, we were able to come up with what I'd earlier shown you, which is party souvenirs. And I'm just going to read this line out for you. So we produced this, and I say like party souvenirs are indeed a thing. Not everyone gets one. And but in the conversation of details, most people will quickly pass by. We decided to lay emphasis on the use of a pamphlet that was given much essence through its limited edition collectible nature that sort of made it into an art object, as well as a cultural and archival material that can be later referenced for research. It was officially templating and trading our secrets through an ordinary pamphlet that contained the order of event for the night and all the connected activities that led up to the event. So it is often said that if you don't write your history, other people will write it for you, and every single attempt to produce work comes through a strategic way to document the process, which is highlighted in this 50 limited edition pamphlet and a donation of the last 7 to archives, libraries, and alternate forms of institutions across West Africa and other parts of the world. It also comes with a certification document. I'm just going to show you like a copy of what that looks like. I could provide a link to that if you want to read what that looks like. So it's kind of like certifying when you get like limited edition art, and then you get like certification to the art. So but rather we decided to use the certification document as a way of containing guest commentaries from other culture producers and curators. Basically just a way of showing youth culture imagined from this part of the world, and want people to know that this is happening. Because I come from Nigeria, where history less often actually get really, really documented as they should. And there's a lot of knowledge gaps. So what we do with our artistic interventions is to sort of like use this process to also create some knowledge production efforts. So as we make these things, make them really look fun, really look interactive, beyond the notion is also knowledge production efforts. So that's how we was go. That's how we came about this. That's how we came about the party. That's how we came about this particular material. But let me give you a better picture of what that looks like from here. For a better clarity, I could also attach like a link after the session, so you guys could go look at it. But then all of this entire process has led us to how we heard that culture is formed. And over time, after this event was done, a lot of thoughts started to bubble up. New way of thinking about the afterlife of parties. We did a bit of archiving here, and like I said, reviewed some knowledge production efforts. But we also started to evolve as a collective, which I mentioned earlier. We evolved into institution without walls, which is, in simpler terms, it's a decentralized system modeled after learning environments where the public, knowingly or not, becomes part of a collective cultural experiment, constantly reshaping and redefining culture. So our thoughts just started to gather as we reflected more on what we've done, and especially with our knowledge production efforts through the event. So I'd like to show you now what these concepts are looking like, because they're looking like, not like they're formed, and how they tie in with what we've done through the event, and how they also tie in holistically with our practice. Those thoughts are organized, and they are organizing into a framework, which we now call Culture as Form. So you can just basically say that Culture as Form came to be when we started to look back on what we've done as a collective, trying to review what informs our way of thinking and what's really, our way of thinking. So in simpler terms, this just means that, how can we continue to emphasize the continuous creation of living, adaptable knowledge and the role of the public as collaborators. So here are just a few concepts that we're thinking through. And I'm just going to show you how they connect with our practice. So there's a key concept of Culture as Form, deliberate intervention. So Culture as Form seeks to intentionally reshape traditional frameworks of knowledge production and cultural expression, offering new ways to engage with cultural practices. You can see that in how we intentionally reshape the experience of nightlife into a platform for cultural and artistic expression, which reflects the Culture as Form concept of intervention into traditional cultural frameworks. So challenging people with a whole new idea of what partying can be, from the original notion of it. So the usual function of what parties can be and the usual traditions of what parties can be. I attached an image. When we actually prepared for this event, we put out a lot of publication, and this is just a screenshot from that publication. I'm just gonna read that. I just kept that in there. It shows that we made serious efforts letting people know that we're deliberately intervening in whatever traditional framework that we've all been into, or we've all logically been sold into, that we need to just be more conscious of. So we just kept labeling this is Spartans in artistic medium, this is Spartans in artistic medium. You all should be aware of that. One of the key concepts is also co-creation. This process emphasizes collaborative creation of cultural forms with the public, allowing for shared ownership and imputing cultural narratives. And you can see that in how we collaborated with different artists, bringing the experience to life, bring the artists to life, from letting us know their possible set list ahead of time, lyrics to songs to carry people along, the performances itself and people's interaction with the performances. Particularly, this was emphasized during the experience when I was moderating the show. I let people know every part of the show and what was happening, and sometimes why it was actually happening. So it kind of just carried people along. There was also co-creation. Co-creation also manifested from pre-show, during the show, and even after the show, then unreleased immersive audio documentary, reliving the experience in real time. Co-creation also manifests in trying to preempt the future, with the limited edition pamphlet documenting all the activities to take place, and that was tied around to the event, and tied around to the city. And we also have dynamic culture cycles, which basically means culture forms are not static. They cycle back into the collective consciousness, intelligence, and the unconscious, continuously evolving and adapting to societal changes. And what this means is that while some people may think of the limited edition paper as an end product, static, and can't push forward beyond that, the idea is that the content can cycle back a new form of knowledge about ourselves as individuals in society. So we're trying to just focus on the interplay between collective intelligence and collective conscious and collective unconscious. What we try to emphasize here is that culture creation is not limited to direct interactions. Instead, it leverages public participation, whether obvious or non-obvious, but most especially the non-obvious. You can see that manifest with giving away the limited edition collectible during the party. During the party also, it also manifested by also emphasizing its use to people while the party was ongoing, so they understood what it was and why we're giving it to them. And then there's a cyclic relationship. There's a reciprocal relationship between knowledge and culture producers and the public, where this ongoing exchange redefines culture and blurs the lines between creator and participant. Now, this one has not fully manifested yet, but we hope to see how people respond over time to the effect of the dynamic cultural cycles, because that's what's going to really inform this one. And then there's institution without walls, or adaptive learning systems. By deconstructing established systems, it creates innovative, evolving learning environments that adapts to the needs of the community. We believe that not all knowledge comes from formalized within the world's type of situation. We want to encourage new forms of emerging knowledge that the world needs today, and how that ties in. And how that ties in our work is making these party spaces into decentralized institutions that just encourage discourse. And then there's collective intelligence. Cultural production relies on the interplay of collective intelligence, where knowledge is constructed through shared experiences and social interactions. While this one too has not fully manifested yet, we believe that the coming together of everyone's input, both artists and the public, informs a collection of shared ideas that just start to inform how everyone is thinking as a whole, which can have a ripple effect on the society later on. And then this one is pretty long, but social engagement and participatory dynamics. I think this is my favorite part of the framework, because this framework encourages subtle participatory dynamics that go beyond direct interaction, allowing individuals to contribute to cultural production in non-obvious ways. So, knowing that all of this was an experiment, all the interactions at the event came from sort of thinking about how we make people participate in the production of the event together without letting them be fully aware that they are participating. So you can see that in the vibe check form, they had to fill out. So I'll talk briefly about the vibe check form. While preparing for the event, people wanted to be a part of it, and then we put up a vibe check form, which was before the event. It's sort of like there were like a list of questions that we, when people like respond to, we can actually like evaluate the answers and see, whether they should come into the experiment. So and so a lot of people actually fill the vibe check form. Not everybody passed, but people will pass for the one who made the event eventually. So these are one of the subtle and participatory dynamics you can see. The type of engagements we threw at the audience during the event as well was also really beautiful, because like there were not a number of like prompts we just kept giving the audience during the event that just made them subtle participants and just had like subtle engagements and stuff. By also choosing to give them the pamphlet to leave on with them forever. You never know how that is going to continue to shape them and other people that comes across it from them. So there's this subtle engagement with the public that way, that goes just beyond the experience itself. And then efforts to donate the pamphlet off to archives and institutions so they can come in contact with knowledge bodies, researchers, and other types of cultural producers that need to make research on anything that might relate to what we've done, and how possibly by their contact with it, they might even touch on more things and produce the knowledge for the world at large. So there's this sort of engagement. It's not there, but it's there. And participatory dynamics just continue to go on and on. So we can say this promotes a deeper understanding of participation, where public engagement is essential, yet often indirect, and then living culture. So this result of everything so far is that all of this produce vibrant and living culture, and vibrant living culture shaped and reshaped through continuous exchange, allowing for organic evolution of cultural practices. So, and what we mean, or what I mean by this, is the aim and and we're just trying to the constant aim of trying to advocate for living culture keeps us on our feet. Yeah, the aim, sorry, I mixed up my words there. The constant aim of trying to advocate for living culture. Yeah, the constant aim of trying to advocate for living culture keeps us on our feet as we rethink how we approach most of the things we know. And using all of this, to also convert other cultural experiences that just go beyond partying into forms that can shape-shift and also shift our understanding and interaction with culture. So the long story short is that, through this framework that we're thinking through and we're using to work and we're using to make stuff, it's not just only to end at just partying and social gatherings. It's also to just, how can this key concept, be sort of applied to many other things, that can just, create like culture experiences into form, and then how this form too can also sort of like, create more understanding, more interactions, more experiences, of culture. So that way there's a cycle. So you kind of like try to make culture experiences into form, but as end product, but how that end product can also inform So, and then just keeps going, it just keeps going, it just keeps going, it just keeps going, it just keeps going. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's it. That's that about it. That's that about it. We're thinking through these things, and then they're not perfect. Some of it, I've been questioned. I've been asked why they exist, and why we're going through them. Some of the concepts I've had to even yank off. Like, I feel like, they wouldn't exactly make sense. Some, I believe, even through these interactions, you guys might be able to poke into it and be like, okay, maybe this might not work, maybe this might work. But we're thinking through these things, and yeah. So yeah, it just brings us to group discussions, and I'm just gonna throw in a prompt. How this prompt is gonna be hard before I reveal it. So let's do a countdown: 3, 2, 1, and boom. So prompt: how can collective cultural experiences, whether parties, whether gatherings or artistic events, or be it any other thing, but let's use just 3 today, be documented and transformed into adaptable, regenerative knowledge that influences both present and future cultural movements, or both present and future cultural activities, cultural experiences, cultural movements. Yeah, it just goes way beyond that. So how can we make them? What do you think? Because the concept of everything eventually is to see, just go beyond, oh, we have an end product of this cultural experience. It's about how this end product can rather be adaptable and be regenerative. So yeah, that's it. And I guess I hand over back to Kristen and Kelly. Thank you very much. So we can do that.
So, yeah, thank you so much. So now, do you want to have a group discussion where we speak about your prompt, or yeah, it seems like that's kind of the next step.
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. I wouldn't know how many people are in the call. I wouldn't know how many people are in the call, but and I wouldn't know how many people are listening so far. But yeah, I think we can. What do you think, Kristen? Do you think we should break?
Yes, I think we're 19 on the call at the moment, so I would suggest breaking into, yeah, let's say 5 rooms of 4. And then there'll be ones, or 4 rooms of 5.
Should we maybe take a minute to just ask folks who don't have their camera on if they're able to participate? Like maybe if they can just flash their camera on, so we don't end up with a group without a bunch of people who can't actually jump in. Does that make sense? So if there's folks who want to participate in a small group discussion, but you don't have your camera on, if you can flash or like say in the chat that you want to be in a group, so we can put you in a group. Sorry to interject. I was just thinking about logistics of one person being with a bunch of people who can't participate.
Thank you. That's a very good point. So
Tope, another kind of logistical thing. Could you put the prompt in the chat so that we all have the prompt when we go into our separate groups? Or, I mean, how many of us are there then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe 9 people? How many groups should we do then? Or should we just stay in the large group?
perhaps, I think if we're 9 people and it's a rather complex prompt in a way, we could start with having a group discussion and then, yeah, so basically stay in a large group. Tope, would you be all right with that? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
Can you hear me now? Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I mean, about 9 people want to go into. We have about 9 people who are willing to go into groups, right? We could just maybe break into 5, 4. If that works. I'm just trying to put the prompt into the chat box. So maybe we could go into like maybe we could go into like 5, 4. It's just about, how do we break it into how do we break it, and what would want to represent like each group eventually.
Yeah. Sorry, Kelly.
Oh, no, I think we could decide within the group who will tend to speak to the larger group. And I think that Nicholas, you said you might be not the most present member, but you're here. And then Matilda, I think you switched to your phone, so you are back. So that seems like that kind of maybe evens out the numbers more or less.
Great. Let's see. Just a minute. So it's we're almost there. So, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see.
Hello guys. I like how we create break room. One break room there, man, they go.
There's this more.
Hello, guys. How's it going? What's funny? Who's laughing over there?
Now so yes, the carry person. I say,
When Nicolas will see me, we can't do meeting. Mute my.
I'm going to take over the meeting, Jerry.
We'll start our own presentation. I beg let me collect phone from Simons. Make you help me on your camera. I want to see something.
What do you understand by party as a form?
I'm gonna let I go come up for you. What did they do for that breakout room? Where they do so? Now another meeting.
I'm gonna go. Then I like they discuss on waiting the guy talk about.
The file lady where I text, you know, to reply me back.
You see that waiting they talk to me. Mute.
Now all about socializing. Who be this one? I start on.
Make noise here. Who goes? I said, microphone. As she joined, I mute straight. Mic.
Yeah, they look like toy, like baby toy. My king out tomorrow will be like this now. You dey laugh that end, Zabi.
Sure now. Oh, okay.
Sharp. Make you send kidney, give electro, make you send liver, come outside. We don't take over. not to echo you know like this. My battery don't low, make I leave you now. Bash come on for you.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh yeah, now my boss.
Yeah.
Hi,
Welcome back, everyone. Let's see. Okay, so I hope you had a good discussion in the other group. Did you assign one person the job of summarizing your discussion?
No, we were really bad at assigning, and then we kept talking like the old Zoom days, like right into the minute that it kicked us out and did not assign anyone.
Yeah, same happened for us, and we decided that maybe we can do a sort of collective summarizing of the discussions. So anyone who'd like to start?
I can start with how we tried to approach the question, maybe, because it is very dense. Like, so we found it was like to have a discussion around it in its entirety was like a little too much. So we found kind of like, I think we found like three things. Like one is this question of how to do this, how to document a party. And then another is a question of kind of like why and who and to what end is the party documented, because that changes very dramatically what's happening. And then we thought that the third part about this transformation was like maybe a little too abstract for us to talk about, because we would have to kind of like agree on what that transformation would be almost, or have some idea of what that would be in order to like approach that. So we kind of focused on more on how and why and to what end, I would say.
So responding to that, we had a similar thing. Like we kicked off on, my initial response was I thought it might be helpful actually to be able to deal with this very dense prompt, to kind of break it into about 3 parts. And ours were quite similar. I think one of the responses that came was like, what kinds of parties and experience might actually benefit from forms of documentation, and which should not necessarily be documented, and then what can that do? And then within this quite grand aim of influencing, cultural movements, generating cultural movements, like there was the comment of that's such a huge thing, but how do you actually kind of think about that on a human level and a collective level, and what does individual or collective experience in the space, how does that shape in something, and could that be formed through the kinds of party that you throw, so the activities that people do together, and then is it about like individual souvenirs or documents that people can take forward, which is like maybe what's coming through in Tope's invitations that he's producing, but actually, that it could also be kind of engaging in some kind of collective activity that generates something. And the other question that I had in breaking it down was like how we recognize what is adaptable and regenerative knowledge, and maybe having slightly more refined definitions there. Because it's like, especially as we talk in a group, understanding what we really mean by those terms, which some people may be familiar with, some people may use in different ways, could be probably helpful. Shannon had a really nice point about oral traditions, and I kind of thought about other forms of creativity. Christian brought up a point about the tradition of the invitation for archives. That we had a librarian called David Senior who looked at MoMA's histories, has written quite a book about MoMA's invitations for its exhibitions, and those then forming an archive and an insight into who was involved and what those were at that point in time. And that's what tours is. Can someone else sum up what Tor said? Because Tor had a kind of counter to my idea that this should be broken down, but Elwyn came out of the bath and I couldn't hear it completely. I don't know, Sarah, maybe you could summarize. His was kind of, I think it was that he actually thought there was something fantastic about like leaving it very open and like taking on something big, and each person could interpret in a different way. But I think I'm summarizing that wrong. But
He did say, like at the beginning, this something about the sacred mystery of the party, that there's something there that yeah, what a phrase. That there's something there that can't be captured in documentation or perhaps shouldn't be. And I was remembering back to Leo's presentation about intentionally kind of fugitive practices of partying so that you don't leave any information behind that can be captured by an antagonistic cultural movement like fascism in Brazil. Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's also this thing of like it being, I mean, I liked this, you brought this up quite well, I think, Tope, in your presentation, at least you touched on it, this notion of it being culturally, like it's context specific, right? So you said about, well, we're here and we're this group of people and we have this situation. So you kind of touched on what institutions are doing perhaps not as well as you'd like, or in that institutions are maybe not functioning the way you'd want to. And so this idea of having an institution without walls, I think, and then, the way I understand it is that you see parties as a space that breaks down the institution. I guess my question is then the risk of sort of rebuilding the institution within the parties, it's a fragile situation to be it's just to be careful that you kind of how you navigate the spaces between, I think it could be to this thing of what you hold on, what you want institutions to do, and how by letting go of the walls and creating these other spaces you actually move beyond that rather than recreating similar structures in new settings. Here I'm moving beyond what we talked about into further discussion, but
yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Something
Okay.
that we also came to talk to, and also if anyone else wants to jump in, let me know because I already talked.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Something that we also talked about was like microscopic detail, or kind of like a broader scale. Like where do we learn, and what are we trying to learn by looking at one thing very closely, or looking at many things less closely somehow? Like that there's like different kinds of knowledges that you take from fully understanding all aspects of one situation, which seems, from what I understand of the Incubator Collective practice, there's like a lot of focus on one event. And then there's also a kind of culture that forms over many events. And that's a different way of understanding or a different way of archiving. And so you have like a way of taking a snapshot or freezing a moment and understanding a moment really specifically, or understanding something in time, perhaps through like less detail, perhaps through like more fugitive things that kind of remain afterwards, like the things that kind of last, but that there's also a way of understanding. And this came out of like a conversation around like kind of the lifeness of the party, which I really liked. This term that came up, like how you're trying to capture something that's alive. And I didn't get to share this, but I brought my invitation that Shannon made as my thing. So I was thinking a lot about graveyards and how there's a lot of meaning in a graveyard of like headstones that mark lives. And we don't know any details, but we understand a lot about like a span or a parameter just from these very small markings about an event or about a thing. And so there's like another approach somehow that's like radically opposite than this like focus somehow. It's like the autobiography versus the graveyard.
Absolutely. I think I like that view. I've never actually even thought about it that way before. Yeah, that's something new I just learned there. Thanks, Lexi.
I think we're in the part of the evening where it's open discussion, questions can happen. I'm not entirely sure when we said we would wrap this up, but maybe now's the time for questions for Tope if anybody has any specific ones at the moment.
I guess my question is sort of goes back to something that I brought up in the break room or breakout room, is what are your thoughts, Tope, about storytelling and gathering that from the folks that are coming to the events that you are creating, but existing more in this oral storytelling place? Like, how does that land with you? Is that of interest? You know, Kelly is involved in storytelling as a big part of her practice. I think that is oral histories are often the way, often a great function of sort of collecting the alive. Like Lexi, I love what you said. Yeah, and so how does that land with you? And what are your thoughts on that kind of documentation for your work?
Okay. To answer your question, I think my thoughts generally on storytelling will be, let me reframe that in my head. My thoughts generally on storytelling is rather simple. It's rather more about how, you know, okay, I like what Lexi said earlier, which is really beautiful, using the graveyard example earlier. You could pass by graveyards and you could actually see tombstones, and then they have like small details here and there, but they could tell you literally about a person's life, you know, and stuff. And I think for me, you know, storytelling, and the very best of it, is done in such a way that, you know, there isn't so much to share, but at the same time, you know, it could also tell you so much. You know, I don't know if you get what I mean. Like, you're not telling so much, but you're also telling. Yeah, as a result, you're telling so much. You're leaving the gaps. That gaps where you're not telling so much, for a lot of possibilities for everybody to just like kind of like imagine it in their own ways. And I think if we apply that to our practice, it's more about, I think it kind of like syncs, because we're so like, while we make work, while we make all the work we make, we're not telling everybody everything in detail, but we're also leaving room for a lot of like that interpretation to happen naturally. So you get the picture, but at the same time, you know, you can also like make sense of it in your own way. But at the same time, when it comes to like oral traditions, you know, I wouldn't know how that really fits really well within our own practice. But you know, that about storytelling is much I can actually tell you, and how it really maybe just ties in with our practice. Would there be any more questions from anybody at all?
But I mean, I think that it sounded the way you said about oral. It also depends on what you see as oral traditions, in terms of like people speaking to each other and literally, you know, word of mouth memory, or if podcasting, recording. Because you briefly, when we were talking, you said that you had actually hours of like audio recording, immersive sound explorations, documentary footage.
Yeah.
Where this overlap.
Yeah.
But one other thing that came up in us is also, I mean, I guess for me, in this documentation, there's this big line between the individual documentation, the memory, the recollection, compared to a kind of collective documentation, or, you know, contribution. But it seems like what you want your documentation to do is this, as I called it before, a kind of grand ambition to like hold on and contribute to some kind of discourse, which seems like a big, and then there has to be like a kind of, it feels like it has to be something that's gathered over many parties. Lexi talks about like the individual moment versus like it's adding up, and whether that is an archive or what is it, but maybe it's one that many people bring their experiences. But yeah, does the documentation have to be and thing from that moment, or is it coming back to people later? You know, and speaking to people over a long period of time and building up community that goes beyond, and like, can a community be a form of documentation, for example, which I think sort of tapping into some of these ideas that are coming up, and maybe that's just something to think about going forwards, and how it's, you know, I think making the kind of change that you're talking about, it's not going to happen in one party. It's something that is durational, right? So I think there's something about having a durational commitment to a goal, a community, a setting, etc. That then maybe starts to form a history, which essentially is what documentation contributes to. That is archive something, and I think it's interesting to think about that. And I think that it will be many things, from your own paintings, and I don't know, it could be poetry, to recordings, conversations with people, to literally just the many people who have been participating.
I think now that I actually think about, you know, what you've been trying to say earlier, Nicholas, you know, I just sort of realized that even like we're trying to create the immersive audio documentary, you know, we just have people coming in to like just come tell their own part of the story as well. So I think, you know, I think that probably even allows for, you know, like the individual contribution to the narrative, individual contribution to the entire experience. It doesn't rather feel like much more like about us or about what we're trying to achieve, but rather more about, okay, you know, what is everybody also like, what is everybody also feeling like, what, you know, or how they felt through this like experiences, and, you know, see how that can also sort of like inform other, you know, type of stuff that we make. So that's it. I just thought to like mention that.
Does anybody have any last questions or comments? No? Christian, seems like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was just about to round off and say thank you to all of you who joined tonight, and also those of you who joined the other lectures. We will edit them a bit and then upload them to PRAKSIS YouTube channel in the coming weeks. So please follow us there. And then just a big thanks to the Parties Rome group for organizing this series of lectures. It's been it's been really interesting, and thankfully it's all documented on Zoom. So this will have an afterlife. So thanks for that, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you.
I was going to, what's it called? I think I promised I was going to like just I think I promised I was just going to drop a link to something to, what's it called, for everybody to like, if you want to take a look at fully about the what's it called, the collectible. So yeah, I'm just going to drop it in the chat so yeah, everybody could go take a look at it. But this was fun in a way, and thank you so much everybody. And this is my first one talking about like largely with a large audience what we do and what we're thinking through. It's so good to see everybody's faces again. Lexi, thank you so much, Lexi, because like, you know, like she really kind of like helped, and Sarah, they just really made this entire process you know, very seamless for me. Thank you so much to Christian, you know, and shout out to everybody who came through. And you know, I hope everybody kind of like learned something, and you know, please check out more of what PRAKSIS is doing, amazing stuff. And you know, I hope we all circle back sometime soon again. Yeah, appreciate it.
Good. Thank you, Tope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.